You guys have no clue on whether or not I'm wearing pants. Welcome back to another episode of the Pacific Bin. My name is Devin and I'm going to be building an Airbnb shipping container home here about an hour outside of Seattle, built out of 5 shipping containers. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down my entire budget and how I plan to spend $500,000 on my shipping container home. It's actually closer to $600,000, but $500,000 looks better in a YouTube thumbnail. So my all-in number might be a little bit scary to those of you who are also looking to build container homes, but please keep in mind that Washington and the Seattle area are vacation destinations, which inflates the value of homes and the cost of construction. So this estimate might be a little bit more than if you're looking to build, say, in the Midwest or towards the East Coast. And before we dive into this video, if you guys wouldn't mind hitting the like button and subscribing to my channel if you want to see more content like this. And just a little background on myself to give you guys a little bit of confidence in these numbers that I'm throwing together. I've been working for a large general contractor here in the Seattle area. We build skyscrapers, apartment buildings, condos, everything. And I've been well-versed throughout the whole construction process as well as estimating. So hopefully these numbers are fairly accurate, if not a little bit inflated. Just to clear this one up, based off of some previous comments from both Instagram and YouTube, I am not a trust fund kid. Some comments have said, this is what happens when you give white kids money. That is not the case at all. 3 years ago, I moved to Seattle with a couple $100s in credit card debt. I ended up working my butt off as a freelance filmmaker and an engineer by day. Just saving as much money as I could, living as cheap as possible, ultimately to be able to get me to the point where I am today, where I have a couple $100,000 stock market portfolio, as well as diving into the real estate realm with the Pacific Bin. And so far, I've put about $100,000 of my own money into this project, but the rest of it is being financed on a private line of credit with a 5% annual rate. The first cost in this breakdown is the cost of the property. I spent $160,000, which you can go check out my very first video I made about the bin where I announced the property and all that it entails. That's your first biggest expense. Mine was $160,000 for the property. The lot is big enough for me to be able to build potential accessory dwelling units in the future if everything goes well with the launch. Now that I had the land, I had to go through all of the pre-construction costs. So that's getting all the permits, all the drawings, all of the preliminary studies that you have to get done in order to even submit for permit. I've also done a deep dive video on all the pre-construction costs that came to about $40,000. You can check out the card in the corner, but that cost includes the architectural plans, the wetland study, the septic and well design, submitting to the health department for the septic and well design, the environmental engineering, structural plans, site survey, site clearing, and the Snohomish County building permit application. And like I said, all of those totaled up to be about $40,000. All right, now for the breakdown that all of you guys have been waiting for, the actual construction cost. So the cost to bring the containers on site, buy the containers, build the foundation, furnish the inside, get it all set and ready to list for Airbnb. I have a spreadsheet that breaks down each of these individual items a lot more, down to what sort of tools I'm gonna be needing to buy and how many materials are, doing like takeoffs where I figure out the quantity of everything that I'll need. That's all built into a spreadsheet, but I will give you guys the total all-in cost. That should give you a pretty good range if you're looking to build something similar. One of the first construction costs are clearing and getting the driveway set. For my site, I was able to clear just the driveway and the pad where the home's gonna be. I want the lot as wooded as possible, so I took out as few trees as possible, and I spent about $6,000 in bobcat rentals, chainsaws, replacement blades, and everything to get my driveway prepped. Granted, I did most of that work myself. Well, friends and family came and helped, but when I was getting estimates, they were around double to triple that $6,000. So I figured I'm capable, I'm young, I might as well just do it myself. Now that the site had been cleared, I'm able to dive into the well. My well is gonna cost me $17,000 to have the well drilled down. It should be around a couple 100 feet, as well as get a pump system installed, and they'll test the waters for me and pretty much get everything all set for my plumber to be able to hook back up into this well once the house is actually set on site. The next big cost is gonna be my septic install, and that will be $12,000. Because my site is completely undeveloped, that means that I need to have power brought onto my site. And with my site, it's kind of difficult because power is on the other side of the road, which means when I reached out to the utility company, They said it would cost about $25,000 to set a junction box on my property. So there's power on the other side of the road, which means we'll have to bore under the road, bring a junction box over, and then I'll have to create a trench from that junction box all the way back to my house. And that, just from the utility company side, is $25,000. Now that all the utilities have been brought on site with the well, the septic, and the power, we're able to dive into the foundation. So I budgeted $32,000 for the foundation, and that includes excavating, concrete, pretty much all set and done. Which those are also based off of real estimates. I'm working with my excavator as well as my concrete guy, and both have hard numbers from those. So those I feel very confident in. Now that the foundation was budgeted, we can jump to the containers. So I've actually already bought my containers from Mountain Containers down in Tacoma, Washington. They're an incredible group of guys down there. I can't recommend them more. If you're looking to do something similar in the Northwest, Mountain Containers, top notch. I'd check them out. I'll put a link in the description. Each of my containers costs $6,600, and with the 5 containers, that checks out to be about $33,000, and that's delivered to site. So that was about an hour drive for each container to get from Tacoma up to Monroe. So all in, $6,600 a container, or $33,000 for all 5 containers. With my design being pretty unique, with the 2 upper containers being rotated perpendicular and sitting on top of the bottom 3 containers, I needed a decent amount of structural steel. Also, because I'm cutting out a lot of the walls in between the containers, I need a significant amount of structural steel to support all of those load-bearing walls that I'm cutting out. Total budgeted amount for all of the structural steel and any tools such as welders, torches, anything else that I'll need for steel work, $21,500. Framing and roofing framing was the next cost, and I budgeted $7,500 for all the wood supplied. So I'll be doing all the framing myself. There really isn't that much framing involved with this home. It's just framing out a couple walls in between rooms, as well as framing the roof lines. I wanted an angled roof just so I don't have to worry about rot with a flat roof or rust. I mean, it rains a lot here in the Northwest, so I just wanted to make sure that I was covered and this home would be foolproof for years to come. After the framing is complete, I'll be hiring someone to come in and wire up my entire house. So wire all the light switches, the light fixtures, and everything involved with electrical work. I'm not an electrician by any means, and I definitely want to hire a professional to do this. So I've budgeted $12,000. It's not a huge scope to wire this house. It's a 1,600 square foot home. So I felt that $12,000 was fairly conservative after researching around online a bit. In conjunction with my electrical costs, I've also budgeted an additional $15,000 for light fixtures. I'm really trying to do a top-notch job with all the lighting at the bin, so I figured $15,000 after doing sort of a rough takeoff of how my fixtures are going to be in the home, both inside and out. So I figured $15,000 should give me a pretty good base to get going. My next cost will be for my plumbing, and my plumbing I budgeted $19,500. So that includes plumbing the entire house, hooking up the house to the water, hooking up my septic to my house, hooking up all the fixtures in the restrooms, the sinks, dishwashers, anything involved with water or plumbing related stuff. I budgeted $19,500. And that number also includes all of the plumbing fixtures. So that's the shower heads and the faucets and pretty much anything associated with plumbing. As I mentioned, this is all broken down in the spreadsheet, really detailed, but for the sake of this video, I smashed them all into one plumbing number, so that's $19,500. If I look wildly more exhausted between that last jump cut and now, that's because my mics just died, and I am having to refilm all this, and it is now 6 minutes to midnight, so let's freaking do this. So now that we have the plumbing and electrical figured out, I budgeted $15,000 for my HVAC. So for my HVAC, I'm gonna be doing mini split head units. So they're pretty much heat pumps, and I'm gonna have 5 of them throughout the house, 1 in each bedroom. So every bedroom will be able to control its own temperature, as well as 2 larger heat pumps down on the main floor to regulate the kitchen, living room, and dining room area. The units and compressors themselves only cost around $6,000 to $8,000, but all that extra money is for having a professional come and install it. Now that all my mechanical, electrical, and plumbing are figured out, we can now spray insulate the walls. So I assumed a closed cell spray insulation foam, and the reason why you have to use a closed cell foam is because it actually binds to the steel, because as your steel gets hot and cold throughout the summer, the steel will actually sweat and there will be a condensate on the inside, which you don't want water inside your home. So I assumed $8,900 based off of national averages for that spray insulation foam. I budgeted $24,000 for windows. Obviously the Pacific bin is just loaded with glass, and that's one of the huge design elements is having that master bedroom that's like a fishbowl and a whole bunch of glass on the back side of the house so you can look out and see the forest. So I didn't cheap out on the glass budget. I've had a couple estimates come in around $18,000 to $20,000. I tacked that little bit extra on there for install that might still even be a little bit light, but that's roughly where I landed on that number. After windows, we jumped into the decking. I budgeted $9,000 for the decking. There is a whole bunch of square footage of deck across the Pacific bin. There's the upstairs deck and there's the large wraparound that butts up to the hot tub and pretty much wraps the entire backside of the house. So I figured $9,000 should be a good amount to cover some of the framing for the deck as well as the Trex decking. It's a little bit more expensive decking, but you'll never have to replace it like traditional like cedar planks or something like that. All you have to do is power wash it and it's pretty much good to go. Next is the doors, frames, and hardware, and I budgeted $4,500 for doors, frames, and hardware. That should cover the handful of doors that we do have inside the bin as well as installing them. My next number was for $8,000, and that is the drywall, taping, mudding, and sanding, pretty much getting the inside of the home all prepped out. It's not a huge home, it's 1,600 square feet. So I figured that $8,000 based off of national averages and plus my extra 10% because of the Seattle premium, that got me to be about that $8,000 number. After drywall comes your paint, and for painting I assume $5,000. I'm gonna be doing all the painting myself. That $5,000 should include all of the exterior painting and the couple coats we have to do, as well as weatherproof caulking that we have to do around joints at the bin, as well as a couple $1,000s for paint on the inside of the home. We're just gonna be painting all the walls white on the inside, plus a couple accent walls, but that should be a fairly safe painting budget. Next up is wood flooring. So I'm planning on having wood flooring throughout pretty much the entire house. With Airbnb, I don't want carpet where carpet can get stained if people spill stuff. It's just if we have a nice cedar flooring, people, if they spill things, they can just go clean it up with a paper towel and we're good to go. So I assumed $7,500, which that is approximately $4.50 a square foot, which is definitely heavy for real wood flooring. But that should also account for if I'm having to do extra underlayment and some of the foam padding that you lay over the underlayment so that your floors aren't squeaking as you're walking around. After the wood flooring, we have the tile, and I assume $6,000 for my tile budget. There's gonna be a handful of locations where tile is used. Of course, the master bathroom. We're gonna have some backsplashes in there, both where the sinks are, as well as tiling the entire shower, which is a fairly large shower, as well as the kitchen backsplash with tile, and maybe a few other places. Not 100% sure yet, but that $7,500 should more than cover that. I'll be doing all the tile work myself, so that number doesn't assume any labor. All right, now we start getting to the fun stuff. Cabinets and countertops. For my cabinets and countertops, I want really high end. There's gonna be a couple unique custom pieces. So I assumed $18,500. So that should cover all of the vanities that are in the powder rooms, the casework that's in the master bathroom, as well as all the kitchen cabinetry and countertops. I actually got a couple estimates from local places here in Seattle, and that seems about right. Depending on what type of countertop I go with, that could be a little light or a little heavy, but we're right in the ballpark. Then appliances. So for the appliances, I was able to go on GE's website and Samsung's website and figure out what their package deals typically look like. So I found appliances ranging from $6,000 to $8,000, and that includes a refrigerator, stove, oven, microwave, sort of the whole combo package. For the hot tub, I budgeted $6,000, depending on which size hot tub I go with, which it's most likely gonna be able to seat 7 to 8 people. And depending on the size of that, it could be a little bit more, a little bit less, but the hot tub is something I definitely don't want to skimp on. Hot tubs are essential with Airbnb, so this is something that I figured is a must, and I must do it well. So that's $6,000, at least gets me in the ballpark. The fireplace is my next item, and I assume $5,000. Now this includes a couple $1,000 fairly simple fireplace, but it's also including the install. I didn't want to handle anything with that. I would hate to burn down my house, so I figured I'd just leave that to the professionals, so that's a couple $1,000s for them to install. TV and electronics. So I assumed $4,000 for the TV and all electronics throughout the house. So this assumes your Apple TVs, your smart speakers that are tied to the TV, as well as a couple security cameras throughout the house. Not actually inside the house, but just on the exterior, just to sort of keep an eye, as well as the smart locks so that people in the home are able to get in and out, where you just put in like the last 4 of your phone number to get the key or get the access code into the home. So that $4,000 should cover that. Then the furnishings. The furnishings are a huge part to Airbnb. I didn't want this to feel cheap by any means, so I'm assuming $15,000 for all the furnishings inside the home. This should give me a fairly hefty budget. Like I said, it's not a huge space, so I can go a little bit nicer on all the furniture, whether it's a live edge table, a big wraparound couch, like some really nice furniture in this house. So that $15,000 feels pretty safe. And my second to last item on here is for $10,000, and that's miscellaneous tools and expenses. There's always gonna be random tools I have to go buy, extra saws, blades, who knows what. I have a decent amount of that stuff already, but there's always gonna be stuff like that. So I assume the extra $10,000 in small tools and equipment. And my very last item, which is actually one of my, almost my most expensive item, and that is Devins fund. So after I added everything up, I took 5% of that value, which comes to be about $30,000. And that is for when things go wrong, when things go over budget. That way I'm at least semi-covered and I have a pool that I can pull from to sort of keep me within budget. I've heard from countless people that these projects always run over budget, so I figured I might as well just build that into my price right off the bat. So when we add everything plus the fund, we come to about $600,000. So I can already see the keyboard warriors going, how are you spending $600,000? Aren't shipping container homes supposed to be cheaper and blah, 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 blah. My goal with the Pacific Bin is to offer a luxury, unique experience that's unlike anything else. I know I could probably build a similar sized home cheaper or for around the same price, but a similar stick framed home would not give off nearly the same kind of unique experience that the Pacific Bin is aiming to offer. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe, like, and comment down below if I missed something or if I'm wildly off on something. I'd love to hear from you guys. I answer every comment, so drop one down below, say hi, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.